Hello, and welcome back to our special book talk series about the International Dublin Writers' Festival. For those of you joining for the first time, I'm Sabrina, and I'll be hosting this mini-series and giving you a sneak peek into the festival events we have lined up for September. Today, I'm so excited to introduce Patrick Osborne. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here today. For our audience, Patrick is one of our special guest speakers at the festival this year, and he's going to share a little bit about himself and the projects he's going to speak about at the festival. So, Patrick, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself? So, like where you're from, what you work on, and if you have a favorite book or play and why, which I know is a tough question, but I'm asking it anyway.
Thank you. How are you doing, Sabrina?
I'm all
Um,
right myself.
that's good stuff. Good to hear. Well, I was born in Dublin in 1971. So I suppose where I grew up and where I was born is right at the epicenter of the festival.
Hmm.
So it's a fantastic thing for me, coming from that area to have the chance then to be a guest speaker at the international festival, which is it's kind of yeah, it's surreal. So it's unreal. It's kind of from where I started off, I would have been born in a tenement house and then would have lived in Dublin Corporation flats, so council flats, and then before then moving a bit further out of the city. But
Hmm.
so a lot of my stories, a lot of the roots of my beliefs and stuff come from being born and bred in the Dublin's North Inner City. So it's a great inspiration, plenty of
Awesome.
stories and plenty of gallows humor because it wouldn't, like 1970s and 1980s in Dublin are a far cry from what they are now.
Hmm.
And there was a lot of unemployment, there was a lot of antisocial behavior, drugs were very new. So communities all had to relearn and try educate the youth, and obviously through reading. So I would have
Hmm.
been an avid member of the libraries that the council had at the time, which were a brilliant resource for young children growing up in such areas. And so that's why I'm really kind of an advocate of reading, education.
Hmm.
That it's definitely a passport to the world, and it'll improve you a lot, hopefully.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. So that's
Oh,
that's basically where I'm from. Yeah,
yeah,
and
nice.
then writing. I originally started off as screenwriting, so
Hmm.
that's my first love. So I would have been a member of a crowd called Film Base, who were based in Temple Bar back, I suppose, the late 1990s, 2000s. So I would have done a lot of courses there. So that was where my interest in writing kind of began. And then over the course of, I don't know, what's that, 30 years, um, I've branched out then into writing novels and also becoming a playwright as well. So
Hmm.
yeah, so that's it.
Oh, very nice. So let's see. Could you tell us a little bit about some of your like past projects, things that you've worked on? You said screenwriting plays, like
Yeah.
lay it on.
Yeah, well, I suppose the most frustrating thing about screenwriting compared to other types of writing is very few of the projects would ever see the light of day because it's quite
Mm.
expensive to make.
Yeah.
So what I would say to anyone out there, if you have ambitions of being maybe a screenwriter, or would love to see your words come to life on screen, is you know if you can write a novel, you can put pen to paper, you can get your laptop out, and there's no restrictions whatsoever other than your imagination.
Hmm.
So that's a huge thing. You're not dependent on anyone else. You can do it. So, anyone can write. It takes a bit of discipline. It takes
For sure.
finding that time. And as we all procrastinate, we all make excuses. And sometimes it's way easier to make the excuse of why you can't write as opposed to why you should write. So I would encourage everyone, if if you have aspirations of writing, write. That's just get down and start writing. So my original project would have been my debut novel was Baxter's Boys,
Yes.
which is about a dysfunctional pub football team based in a north inner city community that had been neglected, we'll say, uh, government policies, or they just were down on their luck. And
Hmm.
then this team arrives into the area, and they build they build the community. They learn from the community learn from them. So it's a feel-good story, but it would have its roots back in where I grew up.
Mhm.
So, but I had originally written that as a 6-part TV series for the BBC. And
Oh,
as I said, it's
wow.
very, yeah. Now the BBC are brilliant insofar as anyone out there, if you have any ambitions to screenwrite and you don't have an agent and you don't have any track record, or, the BBC are fantastic for accepting unsolicited manuscripts.
Mhm.
And they have a fantastic writer's room with all advice and stuff. So that would be definitely a go-to, uh, I suppose, go-to resource that anyone can avail of. So as I said, that's where Baxter's Boys originally started, and then unfortunately, as I said, it's quite expensive to make TV or films. So then I
Mhm.
said, this is too good a story to just leave. So then I turned it into a novel. So that was the debut novel, and that came out 2020.
Mhm.
And so I was very fortunate. The reviews have been fantastic. It's done quite well, and it's recently been a TV company has recently optioned it for the film.
Oh, that's incredible. And it's getting back to what it originally was supposed to be. So that's
There
great.
you go. There you go. And like that, I would, again, I would advise anyone try write it again in a book. And my idea when I put it back into a book was that every book you write is like a business card
Mhm.
of your work. So it just takes the right person to pick it up and read it and go, that would make a good film or a good
Yeah.
TV too. So sometimes that's a way of, rather than waiting for a TV company, trying to apply and not getting through their defenses, if you like, for want of a better word, you be proactive. You take control of the situation and you write it, and then hopefully, with a bit of luck, the right person, it might get in the right person's hands. So that's what's happened to Baxter's Boys. So look, it's a long road, and it's like, I suppose, writing is like a roller coaster. There's ups and downs and highs and lows, But as I said, the the most important thing I would tell people is write because you enjoy writing,
Mhm.
and keep writing, and all the other stuff that happens will be the bonus territory. So my second book then, which will be published next month,
Oh my
again,
goodness.
that's called When Your Number's Up,
Mhm.
and that was originally I originally wrote that as a feature film, and I got that. Now that went a little bit further with the BBC, but again, look, I originally wrote that about 20 years ago. Um, so that got great feedback in fairness at the time, but I was totally unknown. I'd done nothing, I didn't really understand the industry. I just thought,
Mhm.
you write this brilliant story and they're going to be queuing up to give you big checks and, and to make it. Doesn't happen like that for most people. But you can still dream. So this one, yeah, it's coming out next month. So I'm really excited about that because whereas Baxter's Boys kind of is people on kind of on the ground level looking at it at first, it's a very kind of male, appears to be a male story, but it's not.
Mhm.
It's a story of everyone. But the cover is kind of a football team, and I know a lot of women that have read Baxter's Boys. They read it because they had bought it for their partners,
Mhm.
and then kind of curiosity got the better of them, and they read it, and then they actually enjoyed it, and they said, no, this is a story about everyone, not just a
Mhm.
male dominated story. So when your number's up, then that's a very broad comedy, dark comedy, caper heist, kind of a Walter Mitty type character.
I love Walter Mitty.
Yeah. So
Oh.
that was the type. So just a guy down his luck. Everything is gone to pot. His girlfriend's left him. He's going to lose his job. He's about to be evicted, and he has hit rock bottom. And
Mhm.
he meets this older gent that's lives on the streets, and the older gent puts the idea in his head of, why don't you steal a lottery machine and play it for free?
Huh.
Now it's not that straightforward, but that's the concept. So
That
it's
sounds
kind of a
really fun.
crazy madcap story, and there's a love story in it as well. Like it's so I'm really proud of it. I think it has a universal appeal because
Yeah.
everyone dreams of being rich,
Mhm.
and money. While this guy thinks money can solve all your problems, obviously it can't. It can
Yeah.
bring more problems. Yeah, but that's his initial belief. And when like he's quite lonely as well. He just kind of feels he's failed at life. So the winning the lottery and having all this money, he thinks will solve all these problems, and that money can buy you anything, including love.
Mhm.
that's where he initially thinks.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm really happy to get that out there. You know, the initial review, I've had it read, by a couple of select readers, and the initial feedback has been fantastic. So,
Oh, that's great. I'm so excited for it to be on the market. That'll
yeah,
be
yeah.
incredible. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Um,
So that's the second book, yeah. And then I've written a lot of plays, a lot of short plays, because again, um, part of the writing journey that you're on, especially if you want to be commercially viable, is you have to get your name out there.
mhm.
So with writing plays, again, what I can do is I can test different things I write, different scenarios, and you get an immediate reaction from an audience, good, bad, or indifferent. You
Yeah.
will get an immediate, yeah. And there's nothing, there's no better feeling in the world than you writing something, especially dark comedy, which I write,
Mhm.
that a room erupts into laughter as something that you sat over with a blank page many months earlier. Um, and that's a fantastic feeling.
Yeah, I bet
So
that feels
yeah,
incredible.
so I do love theatre, and I do love the instant response. Now it's quite time consuming, between, because again, most playwrights, it's kind of it's amateur. You're doing things as cheap as you can to get it out there. But
Mhm.
what it does do is it definitely hones your writing. You definitely know where your market is and what people like or don't like, and you can experiment. So I love that about playwriting.
Yeah, that's awesome. So between, writing a book, screenwriting, and playwriting, does your writing process change like between those things? Is it mostly the same? Like what's that experience like shifting
Yeah.
between those?
Like it is different insofar as, like, it's gas when people read Baxter's Boys, the amount of people then that there was all Amazon reviews saying, "Oh, this should be a Netflix series," or "I can see this as a film," and the whole. But I had originally written it in that way.
Right.
I write, yeah. So I was going, "Oh, yeah, well, that's the way. That's the way I saw it too." So I kind of write as I see it through my eyes visually.
Mhm.
So we'd say some writers, they write with a lot more prose, and that suits the style of writing they're doing. I like to work on dialogue.
Mhm.
I love dialogue. I love people's interactions, and I love then the visual of the situation that you put the people in.
Mhm.
So again, that goes back to screenwriting. That style. Obviously, screenwriting as opposed to a book, screenwriting is more. I won't say it's an instructional manual to some extent, because you're only a cog in the process of screenwriting. You'll have a director, you'll have other people who'll have visions and interpretations of your work, and actors and so forth. So you have to be mean with with your instructions, with the amount you write, with screenwriting. So the best advice I can give is, I mean, it was given to me by a mentor, was, for a scene when you're writing screen, is arrive late, leave early. So
Mhm.
you keep it as concise as possible and as exciting as possible. Whereas when you're writing books, you have a bit more time to maybe develop characters through your writing. Whereas on screen, it could be just two or three words, and that's the character set up.
Right.
So that's different. You do have to put your thinking cap on, and approach the writing style slightly different. But from my type of writing, I like to write how I see things, how I visualize it.
Mhm.
So hope that makes sense.
No, it does. That's really cool. I didn't think about that. I mean, I feel like with the screenwriting, the arrive late, leave early, I wouldn't have thought to put it that way, but it does make sense. I feel like the action that you get,
Yeah,
like you want to be dropped right in it and then leave
correct.
when the like anticipation is the highest.
And that's the secret, and I mean, I'm not reinventing the wheel. This has been done and tried, and tried and tested for many years. But it is a fantastic way to set up. And the other thing, when you're sending off, if you send off a script, generally the likes of the BBC, or producers and all, they'll read the first 10 pages.
Mhm.
That's kind of the rule of thumb. So a page of script is approximately 1 minute of film. Okay.
Okay.
So again, if you write a 90-page script, it's about an hour and a half. Okay. But they'll read 10 pages. If it doesn't grip them in 10 pages, it's gone.
Yeah.
You know, so you watch most movies and all, they nearly tell you at the very start, almost a lot of films are almost at the end, and then they do a flashback, you know, 10 days earlier or 5 years earlier or whatever. But you'll be, as you said, you'll be dropped into action very quickly. You know, you have to establish characters, the main characters, very quickly, because the audience want to fall in love with your characters or want to have empathy, but they need to see them characters very quickly, and they need to suss out what's going on very quickly. You know, there's very few films now that are very slow burners. Whether
Yeah.
people's attention spans have lessened, I don't know, but it's you know, as I said, you need to really catch them straight away on the hop. Then you can delve back into their backstories. But
Yeah,
that initial 10 pages for anyone writing out there, particularly screenwriting, first 10 pages, you have to hook them. That's it.
for sure. Yeah, the hook is so important. I've read enough manuscripts to be like,
Yeah,
if you don't have a hook
yeah,
and you're done. You're
you're
done.
done.
Like,
Yeah,
I can't stay with this if there's
yeah,
no good hook.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so is this a bit what you're going to be talking about at the festival? Like your advice for screenwriting and being an author?
Yeah, I think it's the main thing I'm gonna say is have belief in yourself. You know,
Mhm.
like people complicate what writing is about. But writing is a simple process.
Mhm.
Now, whether the writing is any good, that's another thing. That's subjective. But the process is simple. I mean, if you put words down either on a laptop or on pen and paper, you know, you can edit, as the man says, you can't edit a blank page.
Right.
You know, so you need to write something. Once you start writing, now you've started the process of becoming a writer.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're just like somebody that's thinking and pondering, you know. So, right. So, my thing is that if I can do this, especially coming from the background I came, I'd nobody involved, none of my siblings or you know, my relations were writers
Mhm.
um, as such. And so I didn't have that background. You know, I was just an ordinary Joe Soap going about my business. I'm a horticulturist by trade. So, you know, gardening is you know, plants. That's my profession.
Mhm.
And but it gives you plenty of time to think. That's
Yeah, oh, for sure.
you know, so it's a good file or a good balance for that. But oh yeah, so what I want to be talking about is you know, have confidence in yourself. Have
Mhm.
confidence in a writer. And the biggest thing is everyone was once a beginner.
Right.
No matter who they are, everyone was once a beginner. And I want to instill in people that if I can do something, you know, coming from kind of negative steps, if you like, you know, from not having anyone in the know-how or you know, that if I can do it, well, everyone can do it. What's stopping you? And believe in yourself, and you know, and it will happen.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh man, that everyone needs to hear that. That's going to be fantastic. And I'm looking forward to hearing that in September.
Yeah, I'm
Um
looking forward to it. Yeah,
yeah, oh, I'm so glad. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
my pleasure, Sabrina. I really enjoyed it,
Yay, thank
and
you. Well, I'll see you at the festival.
looking forward to it.
So, this brings us to the end of our episode for today, and thank you so much for tuning in. While this is the end of our mini series, it is certainly not the end of the amazing speakers we have lined up for the festival. If you're interested in attending the International Dublin Writers Festival, it will be running from September 15th to 17th at the Academy Plaza Hotel in Dublin. If you can't attend in person but still want to listen in and learn, we do have online sessions available, so please go to internationaldublinwritersfestival.com for more information. See you there!